they went through my drawers after I had left for work. And that's where they found like multiple wine bottles and
You're
stuff.
keeping it at work, Amy Leigh?
Yeah.
Recovery Vow is sponsored by Aggressor's Adventure, Posey Funeral Directors, and Craig International, among many other sponsors. Thank you for your support. Today on the Recovery Vow podcast, we've got some new friends of mine. We've got Ryan and not Amy, but Amy Leigh.
Correct.
Now, on this podcast, we share, or I ask people to come on and just share the stories of recovery, addiction, family, life, how you've been affected, who's a supporting spouse. But then we also have people come on that are sober curious, parents, children. And that's what this platform is for. It's for me to give you an opportunity to come on and share your story. And I think that's important because there's going to be an Amy Leigh and a Ryan out there. May not look like you, but they're living the same kind of life you guys have. So let's talk about, your life. We met, did we meet at Sally Kohler's office?
We did.
That's right. So Sally Kohler is a sponsor of the Recovery Vow podcast. She's a phenomenal photographer here in Evans, Augusta, CSRA. Wonderful, wonderful woman. But you were in there because you work for a certain local magazine.
Yes, I work for Columbia County Magazine.
Okay.
And then also your first podcast with Annabelle. She's a close friend of mine. So.
Did you know that she just did the podcast again today?
Oh, I did not.
Yep. Her and another young adult came on, and I wanted to have her back, but I wanted her to do another story with a girl named Aubrey.
Okay.
I thought her name was Mallory, but she said no, it's Aubrey. So not Mallory and Annabelle just left 2 episodes ago.
Oh.
So isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Now, how long have you guys been together, you and Ryan?
We met, it was November 2021.
Met 2021.
Yeah.
Where did you meet?
Through
Ryan just chuckled. What does that mean?
Hinge, the dating app.
That's fine.
It's normal.
It was a simple hey.
It was
I just sent her.
You hate her? Or
I
she
just
hate you?
I just sent her one message that said hey. That was it.
How long after that did you get married?
We got married this past February.
Okay, so from the hey to the wedding, how much time is in there? How long did y'all
2
date?
years
2.5?
Not even.
Not even?
Not even. A little
Okay.
bit over 2 years. 2 years and 3 months or so.
What's the name of that app again?
Hinge.
Hinge. I've never heard of it.
It's where the girl has to like the guy first in order for the conversation to start.
So even though you hate first, she
I had to say.
kind of winked over there a little bit.
She had to okay it.
I love that. So I met on, this is how long ago it was. It was Match.com.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've been on Match, but that was a long time ago. And then there was one, but I never dated any of these girls because it was like a weird app. It wasn't Tinder. It was like Fish of the Sea.
Plenty of fish.
Plenty of fish.
Yes.
Oh God.
I've heard horror stories with that one.
Yeah. I had 3 and it was like, yeah, I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
But dating is so hard.
It is.
Once you get to a certain age, or if you have kids, like I had 2 kids. And so, I mean, that immediately just cut a lot away, you know, but dating's just tough. So how did you guys do it? Tell me how that simple and then a hey led to Amy Leigh and Ryan.
I mean, we just talked through the app or through the phone for about a week or 2. And then our first date was at Taco Sushi in Evans.
Great spot.
We ate there the other night. It's
Great
delicious.
spot.
Yeah.
And a funny story is when we sat down, the waitress came to us and she was like, do you want something to drink? And I was like, I'll take a water. And I think you got a Coke or something.
No, I got a water too because I stumbled through it because I was like, do I get a drink? Do I not?
Oh, like a drink.
A drink.
Yeah.
And the waiter walked away and he was like, did you not want a drink or anything? And I was like, no, I don't drink anymore. He goes, what are you, an alcoholic? And I was like, actually, I'm 45 days sober.
Dude,
Hey.
I felt about that little.
And so, I
That's
mean,
so
but it
bad.
leads to great conversation, right?
It was.
Were you
great-
embarrassed?
no, that was my thing.
You
It
were.
was,
I was more of just like insert foot in mouth.
Dang, Ryan.
Yeah.
but for me, this was my first experience dating being sober.
Yeah.
And I was extremely worried about finding someone that would respect my recovery and be okay with it and stuff. And I felt like that was just kind of God's humor saying, like, we're going to have a funny story about this. Like,
Yeah.
it's not something to worry about.
And we just laughed about it.
Yeah.
What happened? Do you remember what happened in the moment? Like when you said, by the way, I've got 45 days. Do you
He was
remember?
like, oh, okay. Well, I've been wanting to date a girl that doesn't drink.
Yeah.
Good.
That
Good
was-
for you on that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, I mean, from there, it was just kind of, I was still very fresh with my sobriety and I didn't mind talking about it. I was kind of on that pink cloud. And so he gave me that respect immediately and kind of that open table of being able to talk about it and like my recent experiences going through it. So
Yeah.
he made me feel very comfortable very easily.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And it didn't scare you away.
No, it actually, I think it was the opposite. I was curious because I'd never,
What made you curious, you think?
I guess not in a negative way, but like AA always kind of was a different thing. I just never met somebody that went through that.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of questions and just, I don't know, but I knew because when we met on the dating website, as you know, you've heard of, catfishing and all that. So
Yeah. It could have been a lot worse.
it could have been a lot worse. So when we met, I was like, first thing that popped in my head was, oh my goodness, she actually looks like the person on the app. And so it was, I knew pretty much from right there, before I found out about anything else, I was like, this is it right here.
You knew
I
already?
just knew there was something, especially, and then after that first date, it was.
How soon after the first date was the second date?
The next day?
Yeah, I think the very next day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I have a 6-year-old son now. He's 6 years old now. But at the time he was only 3.
A little over 3.
He was he was a little bit over 3 years old.
So you were married before?
No,
Just-
I
okay.
wasn't married.
Just have a son.
Yeah. And I had told her that I'd kind of given her the heads up that I was like, it's no disrespect to you. I want to keep those two things separate for a little while.
What,
and then-
like her meeting him?
Yeah.
I can respect
I
that.
just didn't. So, but after, I don't even think it was 2 weeks.
2 or 3 weeks.
About 2 or 3 weeks. And I had taken him to the park behind the library over in Evans, over by Lady A.
Yep.
And we were talking and she was like, well, I'm right down the street. And I was like, okay, well.
You wanted to meet him.
Yeah. I mean,
I think she was on the fence. I don't think neither one
I
of
was
us
going to
really
respect
knew.
the time.
Yeah.
Like, but
So she came up there while we were there, and the minute it was like they had known each other since he was born.
That's
It was
sweet.
perfect, and I was just like, that for me
Double
that
confirmation.
cemented everything for me. That
Yeah.
that was it.
So you were a single dad. Did you have y'all have like split custody or how's all that
With
work?
his mom, he's with her for 1 week, and then we get him for a week.
Perfect.
So it works. It really works out
Yeah,
pretty well.
I have custody of Cameron and Christian. My sons now. They were 3 and 4 or 4 and 5 because they're only 18 months apart. So whenever we got divorced, one of them was still in diapers. Christian was still in diapers, and so I was guarded because after the divorce I was sober, and then I was guarded kind of the same way, like. Because I didn't want to. I mean, I wanted to meet somebody, but I wanted to be in the right time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was scared, like if they met some of these, especially the Plenty of Fish girls, like, yeah, you're not meeting any of these, homie. It's not going to happen. Because they would ask, and there's something you can attest to this, I'm sure, but there's something sweet about a guy with his kids.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's the fact that, when you're an involved dad like that, that's, women flock. to that.
They do.
And so, yeah, so I commend you for kind of guarding that. Because in the same sense, she probably had some kind of a guard up a little bit. You said by this time you had 45, or you were almost 45 days?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was about 45 days sober at that point.
Was this your first attempt at getting sober?
Mm-hmm. And I did, I did a 5-day detox at the Bluff. That was my kind
The
of.
Bluff takes women? I didn't know it was co-ed. I thought it was just all male. That's cool.
Yeah.
I know some folks out there.
Yeah.
Terry and, yeah.
John.
Yes. Yeah. So tell me, what got you to the Bluff? Like, what was your addiction like? Can you share? Because you're on a podcast, so that's why you're here.
Yeah. I mean, growing up, I was born and raised here.
Okay.
I have wonderful parents who are still together, 43 years. And I have 2 older brothers and an older sister. So I was the youngest growing up and lived a very normal childhood. My parents involved us in sports, church. I was going to church a couple times a week. Just kind of staying involved. And even in high school, I would say, I mean, drinking wasn't really a big thing for me. But with disease, it was progressive.
Yeah.
And one thing I probably should point out, my brother, who's the one above me, he suffered from addiction, more so on the painkiller side.
Mm-hmm.
So I was seeing it from a younger sister perspective and how damaging it was with my parents and my family.
How many brothers and sisters do you have?
2 brothers and a sister, older sister. So I was having to kind of see that I was I was like 11th and 12th grade when he was at his worst. And his addiction was really bad. And I could see it breaking my family. My mom kind of wanted to give the tough love. My dad didn't really know what to do. And then when I went off to college, it was terrifying because every phone call I was getting, I was like, is he dead or did he kill someone?
That's horrible to live like that with that worry.
Terrible. And then just seeing it hurt your parents just as much. And so I had that a lot of pressure, making sure I didn't screw up, keeping myself on track. I wanted to make my parents proud, but luckily my brother, he kind of had his lowest point. He went to jail and then he ended up going to rehab in Statesboro. And now today, I think 13 years sober.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I mean, he ended up going back to college. He went to college. He got his master's in public health. He helps others now in sobriety. So it was a miracle through our family. But even with that, I still had the pressure of making sure that I stayed on track and I wasn't going to be a burden for my parents.
Do you remember if you had to think about your parents in this response? Because I want to talk to parents too at some point. And we've talked to some, but do you remember did it affect their marriage? I know you said they've been married 43 years, but do you remember what it did to them? Like, because you probably get confused, like as an enabler or somebody that's trying to fix it because you don't want to see your kids sick. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I can.
You remember what it did to them?
Remember hearing them argue about what to do with them. Do we send them to rehab? Do we pay for the rehab? And then my mom was like, we're locking him out of the house. But then the next day my mom would be like, okay, you can come. I don't know. It was very tough because they didn't know. There wasn't a lot of families or friends that they had that had kids in addiction. So they were trying to figure it out.
Do you feel, are they okay talking about it? Like, did they keep it secret in the time? At
the time, yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
Just because, again, we didn't really know resources where to turn to and everything. But I could definitely feel it breaking our family because then my sister would disagree with a lot. And then, so it was kind of like I just wanted to be the child that like played nice and stayed on track for them. And because I knew how much of a financial burden it was for them.
I bet.
Having to take out like second mortgages and stuff just to save him from and keeping him going to rehabs when it was frustrating because I knew he didn't want to be there.
He didn't want to be sick either.
Yeah.
Probably,
And so I was just kind of waiting for that low for him to happen. but it happened and he got through it. And it ended up making our family so much stronger in the end, because it gave us a space where we could talk about it, and we understood kind of where people were coming from. And then from us talking about it, other families were coming to us asking us for resources and help.
And there's not a whole lot out there.
Not really at that moment. There wasn't. No, like we
I'm
suggested
working
rehabs, but
if they don't want it, the family needs something that they can do, like, or they need some kind of material to help them walk through that, so that they understand what's enablement and what's not, I guess. That's why I asked that question.
Yeah.
That's the next project I want to work on, is like families, like helping moms and dads and grandparents or whoever that's playing that role with you and your brother. You know, like, this is what you need to do, and this is why.
I think one thing with his experience and with my experience, one thing that for me, it breaks my heart these days to see parents spend so much money on rehabs for their children when the child is not ready.
Yeah. Those are two questions that when people come ask me, like, what do I need to do? I'm like, well, it's not about what you need to do. It's like, this is what they need to do. You know, do they want it? And do you guys have insurance? Because the better insurance you got, the better of a chance you got of some really good treatment. You know?
Yeah.
And I know that sucks, but you know, you can only throw money at so much. It's just throwing money away. What got you to the point where you knew that you had an addiction? Let's talk about Amy Leigh.
Yeah. So fast forward, went to college, had a great college experience.
Where'd you go to school at?
Valdosta State University. Okay. And then right after college, I got a corporate job in Atlanta doing staffing, which was a very high energy, a lot of young people, very Wolf on Wall Street kind of sales. But I had my own money. My problem wasn't a problem, I would say, necessarily then. But then I ended up moving to Seattle, Washington.
Well, it's a long way away from home.
Yeah. It was for a relationship. And I think I don't know if it was the loneliness. I don't know if it was just because I had this great job working at Microsoft and I was living the adult life. And so I could drink whatever I wanted to. Like it's what I saw in the movies and TV shows.
Right.
But one thing led to another where I was noticing I was drinking at lunch, and then I was bringing back drinks to the office. And
do you remember the first time you drank at lunch? And what made it okay? Like, what did you tell yourself that made it okay? Were you like with a client or something? Because I mean, like, I watched the movie Wolf on Wall Street.
Yeah.
And they drank at lunch, you know, and so that's what made me think about that.
Yeah.
But they were like, because they were clients or whatever. So do you remember what made you drink at lunch?
I felt like an adult and I could.
Yeah.
I had the laptop with the wine next to me, thinking that I had made it. I was
in Washington.
Yeah. I'm good. I'm working and stuff. And so
Augusta who? Yeah.
And then after I was drinking after work, and then I was beginning to be more secretive about it. And it just kind of, then it became a mind consuming thing. And it was like, all right, when can I get my next one and all this stuff? And my boyfriend at the time kind of could tell.
Yeah.
And he kind of asked me to stop because addiction ran in his family. And I stopped for a couple weeks, but then it just caught up. And so we ended up breaking up. And so I was having to tell my parents, like, why? Well, they were like, well, why'd y'all break up? And I wasn't ready to admit my problem then.
That's what I was about to say. Were you honest with them?
No. I actually admitted to having an eating disorder at the time. I was like, I can admit to this one.
Did you?
Yeah.
You did too?
So I was kind of suffering through dual addiction.
Wow.
Where it was, well, I wasn't eating. I was drinking to supplement, to not eat kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or to make me feel full and stuff. So I was able to I was like, I'll admit to the eating disorder, but I'm not ready to give up my alcohol yet or have them ship me off to a rehab for anything.
Because then you're not in control.
Yeah. And then I ended up going to like doing an outpatient therapy for my eating disorder for like 2 weeks. But by then I'd already planned to move back to Georgia. So it was just kind of one and done kind of thing. And came back to Georgia and my friends here were just kind of drinking it seemed a little bit more normal.
Right.
And so, and with my parents and a lot of my friends, they always kind of gave me that look. Whenever something went wrong, they were like, Amy Leigh will figure it out.
Amy Leigh.
She's got it. Like, we don't need to worry about her follow up. She'll figure it out. And that's kind of what it was. There wasn't a lot of follow up after that. And so I went back to Atlanta and kind of with addicts, we run with our addictions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we keep that secret close to us. And we only invite people in that will enable or
Be a part of what we're doing.
yeah. And I was living with a flight attendant, so she was gone half the time, and so I could just keep my secrets going.
Were you doing anything else besides drinking?
As far as like drugs,
Yeah.
not really.
No.
In Seattle, there was cocaine, but it was I think
And you were
alcohol.
able to stop that?
Yeah.
That was like my favorite thing.
Well, it can be in college. I did Adderall, and that was amazing. So I related cocaine with that, but it was too expensive for me.
It's extremely expensive.
I couldn't keep up with that.
Yeah.
So, but lived in Atlanta for a couple of years, and then COVID happened, and that was all the media and TV shows and everyone were just kind of showing me like, it's okay to drink at 11 o'clock. And so for an addict like me, I was like, this is great.
Yeah.
It kind of gave me that blessing of go ahead, start drinking. And so it escalated then. COVID definitely escalated it.
You know, I've never talked about that. I wonder what the percentage of people that started becoming addicted to things during COVID.
I can't imagine.
I think it escalated a lot of people.
Sure.
Because I hear a lot of people, it kind of had people having their crashing points about 1-2 years after COVID, kind of when they went back into the world and they realized their brain had just been out of whack and stuff.
I need to look into that. I'd be interested to see what those numbers are.
Yeah.
But I ended up getting laid off at the job I had. So then that progressed it. And then I got another job. It was like a healthcare magazine, which was very interesting during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. It was kind of one of those positions where I had my own office. And so, again, I was going out to lunch and drinking, bringing it back into the office. And I was secretive until I wasn't, until my secrets were kind of people were smelling it, or I was stuttering my words, different things like that, where I didn't think people were noticing, but they were.
Yeah.
And eventually it got to a point where my HR manager and boss at the time caught me.
What did they ask you? Do you remember what they asked you? Did they ask you, are you
I remember,
an alcoholic?
No. It was, I think we were in like a team meeting one day, and they could kind of tell that, like, did she have too much to drink at work or at lunch, and came back and stuff. And then they went through my drawers after I had left for work. And that's where they found like multiple wine bottles and
You were
stuff.
keeping it at work, Amy Leigh?
Yes. I know.
I mean, it's one thing to like drink at the restaurant during lunch, but
I was getting sloppy.
You didn't think that. You didn't think that.
My
too much.
secrets weren't becoming secrets much more. And,
I used to drink at work too. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
And so they made me take off the rest of the week, thinking that was gonna make me change my mind. And so when I came back, I just tried to be more secretive about it, keep it in my car,
Yeah.
and stuff. And that it didn't last long. A couple more weeks later, I went in on Friday morning and they fired me. And it was the biggest ego hit to me, because I've always prided myself on being a very hard, career-driven person.
Yeah.
And I've never been fired from a job. So that was a low for me.
Yeah. Was that your lowest low?
Yeah, I think that kind of like shot it off, like, because then I ended up having to immediately call my dad, and that was a Friday. And he was like, "Well, let's just come home for the weekend. We'll figure something out."
Yeah.
And I ended up staying in Augusta, and luckily with my brother, we had resources here available. We knew people in the programs and
Because
stuff.
of what your brother went through.
Yeah, and so we were able to kind of call them and see, here's her situation. What do we need to do? And so I started going to AA meetings, and it was good. But about a week or two into it, I was just right back to being secretive. The mind consuming and the physical dependency, like waking up at 3 a.m. with the shakes. And
you had to drink. It's not that you wanted to.
I didn't.
You had to.
I was physically ill.
Yeah. I had the same thing. Like my handwriting in the morning time was different. And that's why I drank, because I couldn't.
The shakes. Yeah. I would blame a lot of it on my anxiety and stuff. I would blame it on anything but alcohol. But I knew deep down that was the issue.
Had at this point, did you ever say to yourself, I'm an alcoholic?
Yeah, I think once I could physically see my body taking a toll, just from throwing up and stuff and not being able to fully function, like I had to have it in me. I knew something was wrong. Yeah. And so it just kind of progressed, and I knew I was sick, but I didn't know what to do. And I didn't want to be, I wasn't ready yet to go to my parents and say, I need rehab, because I didn't want to be that financial burden again on them. I was supposed to be the child that they didn't have to worry about. So it took time. How
much time did it take before you made it to rehab, or made it to, can we say Bluff? Can I say Bluff here? I guess I can say Bluff. Shout out Bluff. How long before you made it to the Bluff?
It was 1 month.
After that moment from getting fired.
Yeah. So I got fired in September. It was October. I remember it perfectly. It was a Wednesday. I had actually gone to a noon AA meeting. And on the way home, I stopped at a liquor store and
from the AA meeting.
Yeah. And got a Pinnacle vodka and, had like a drink or something.
What made you go to a liquor store after an AA meeting, you think? You just,
I needed it in me. It was I was self-medicating.
Yeah. Okay.
The whole time. For me, it was, I didn't want to go see a doctor. Self-medication was the only thing for me. And just to ease the pain. And so I had like a drink or two or something. And I remember being in my room, at my parents' house, and all of a sudden I had a spiritual experience. I had God come into my room and completely lift that desire off of me and surrender.
Really?
I was ready to go. I was ready to just give it up and out of desperation. And so I called a girl that I knew that was very active in AA and rehabs and stuff around here, asking her for her, because she was kind of like my temporary sponsor at the time. And I was like, I'm ready. She's like, are you sure? Like, because she had every right to be questionable.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, like God came in. I'm ready. And so my dad just happened to be home, and I went downstairs and I said, I'm going to the Bluff tonight. And I didn't have insurance at the time. So kind of I was like, in my bank account, I can afford a 5-day detox. So that's what I'm going to do. And it was a very simple, like, I won't say simple, but the withdrawals weren't there. Like, it was so crazy. I don't know if it was the medicine or the rehab or what, but it was just,
you can say that. It probably was medicine, but when you have that spiritual experience, or that moment of clarity, that whatever you want to call it, people have that. It's a real thing.
It is.
Some people have it. I know one guy, Sean, that he quit 10 years ago. He just quit. He said, I had a spiritual moment, never went back.
Like, the thought of going to a gas station didn't bother me at all. Parents drinking in front of me, I had zero desire for alcohol after that.
But you knew that you needed treatment because of how sick you were.
Yeah. I needed to be honest with myself and with others that I had a problem.
Yeah.
Because I remember talking to my brother before I went into the Bluff, and he said, the number one thing you need to do is get honest. And until you're honest, you're not going to, the program is not going to work for you.
He's right.
And be open and willing to do the work. And that's all it took. And from there, it was just
doing the work.
Yeah.
And that was how many years ago?
That was a little over 3 years ago.
3 years ago. How many dates into taco sushi before you heard that story?
I think it was on the first date.
We talked about everything. That first date was
On the first date?
That was like that was almost a
Well, I guess so.
That
Oh,
was
that's
almost
right. Because she made you, when you asked about drinking, that's right. She said,
and that opened
I've
the
got 45.
floodgates for everything. Because after that, it was just like a therapy session for both of us.
okay.
So
Did it worry you about dating that soon in recovery? Or because of that
Yeah.
spiritual awakening, you felt like you could handle this too?
Well, I mean, of course, in AA, they advise you not to date anyone for the first year.
Yeah.
And I was kind of going against that. But,
from like the first month.
but I knew in my heart that like God was giving me this person that was respecting my recovery. Because I told him, I mean, it wasn't like the first date, but within the first week, like God, recovery, and then you and my family are my priorities right now. But do not try to come into like, I have boundaries and you have to respect this.
Yeah. That's the, I can't remember exactly what chapter. I should know what chapter it is, but it's one of the chapters in the book I wrote. It's about good, healthy selfishness
Mm-hmm.
and, you know, how your spouse plays that part of the other person, because we can't forget about them. Like, even though you guys met afterwards, he needs to know like what it's like to be with a person in recovery. You know what I mean? Have you ever dated anybody in addiction recovery before?
No.
Yeah.
I
So, I
have
mean,
not.
it's,
So like for me, it was like I said, before I said I was curious, but then for me, it was hard to, it still is. It's still hard for me to grasp exactly what I know what addiction is, but to fully understand what someone like her, like she went through.
yeah.
Or like, you know, anybody else that goes through it. Like for me, it's just
You
hard.
never saw that side of her, one,
Well,
and then you never
yeah.
lived that.
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
I'm the type, I can go drink a 6-pack and then not drink again for 3 years. I mean, I'm fine. You know, so it's much different. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Ironic, funny enough, it's been easy for me. And I think because, like she said from the start, she's set that boundary, and I knew from the start, I was like, okay, well, you know, I'm here, just, you know, so.
Did you feel like you needed to help with boundaries, like, or you were okay with her setting her own boundaries, like as far as maybe being around a certain group of friends, or being in situations, or going to different restaurants? You know, I'm just trying to think about, did you change anything you were doing before the relationship? Did you change anything after you guys became a couple?
Did I?
Yeah.
No.
For example, my wife quit. She didn't quit, but there was a certain group of friends that she hung out with. They are great women. But to kind of honor our relationship, she was like, I'm not going to not be friends with you. But they every time they got together, they had wine or drink or whatever. And she said, I'm just going to focus on this for right now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, fully. For me, you know, I don't have a lot of friends. I have my select few people that I, you know, talk to and whatnot. But I think that was kind of why I didn't want to be with somebody who was, you know, drank like that, because the party scene for me, I did it when I was younger.
Yeah.
And it's just, as I've gotten older, especially with a kid, I was like, I don't,
It's not you.
It's not me. I'll still have a drink occasionally here and there. But I don't like that feeling of being not in control, waking up, puking. That's just not, for me, that's not, you know, that's not what I want.
When he has that occasional drink, Amy Leigh, does that
Doesn't bother me at all.
Usually it's, I bowl in a league.
Really?
Yeah.
Bro, I used to bowl in a league. The leagues just last so freaking long.
Yeah,
It's an all year.
It's like 32 weeks or something.
Ah, man,
Yeah.
I used to love it. I used to shoot pool on a league, and I bowled on a league.
Yeah. So
you still bowl now?
Yeah. Yeah. So usually if I do drink, it's usually one, you know, I'll have a beer or something.
Yeah.
For the longest time, I refused to drink in front of her
Mm-hmm.
because I just,
That's what I meant.
I felt like it was.
You want to honor her.
Disrespectful,
Yeah,
yeah.
disrespectful in a sense. And then, there's been several times where she's like, just go have a beer. Like, you're fine. So
I'm like, please, I'm living vicariously through you.
Yeah. I tell Kristen the same thing. But it was after like so much time went by, and I'm like, babe, you got to understand. And it took a lot of sobriety to say this, but I told her, I was like, you're not the one that had the problem.
Yeah.
Don't change you, because I'm changing me for me, not for you to an extent, just like you just said. It's like, I got to do this for me first, and then God, and then you and the kids and all that. So I totally get it. So what's life been like since day one at Taco Sushi? You guys engaged, married?
We're married. We've been married since February.
Oh, you're coming up on your first year. What's this first year been like?
It was rough.
It was rough. Not in a like fighting way. Just it's.
They say the first year, the fourth, I don't even know first, fourth, seventh. Those are supposed to be tough years.
I've always heard first year is always the toughest.
It took us, and it was. So there was a relapse involved.
Drinking relapse?
No, it was with kratom.
What is that?
Okay, I need to.
Is that horse
tranquilizer? People need to hear about it.
No.
That's the K word I was talking about a minute ago. We had a person in here a minute ago, and they were like, "Yeah, we took what's it called? What's the K word for the horse tranquilizer? Ketamine.
Ketamine.
Does it start with a K or a C?
I think it is a K.
K.
I think it is a K.
Because they call it Special K.
That's right, because I told her I like Special K cereal, and she's like, "Oh, I do too." But then there's kratom.
Kratom. Mm-hmm.
It's like a fancy weed. See, Charles, I was telling the producer, Charles, I'm like, there's a K word out there for weed. And he's like, yeah, no, there's not, Eric. But there is. There's kratom.
So I discovered it. It was probably, I guess, a year ago. I don't even know, a little over a year and a half ago. And I was trying, as an addict, I was trying to find the loopholes. I was trying to self-medicate because I didn't have insurance at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted something to help my anxiety. And so I couldn't go to the doctor. Then they would prescribe me an antidepressant, but that takes like a month to kick in. And then also like I had heard like with my friends recently getting pregnant that they were like, oh, well, I had to get off my antidepressant when I was pregnant and stuff. So I was like, well, I don't want to have to suffer through that.
Yeah.
So I was trying to find something that was just like a quick fix. Right. And so I came across kratom, and what is
it in like a pill form?
It can be like a pill. It can be a shot. It can be a powder, just different things. But they consider it like a half opiate. When I took it, I wasn't impaired. I wasn't like loopy or whatever. Like no one knew.
You don't know. Yeah. It's not a drug per se.
It was just kind of like a really good coffee.
Let me ask a question. Did a doctor prescribe it?
Mm-mm.
Okay. So that's the issue, I guess.
You'll see it now on the roads where the CBD stores, they're like kratom. Like you'll see it lit up everywhere. And so I was kind of like, what is that? And so you just kind of Google it and you see that it helps with anxiety. It helps with
energy,
pain. Some of it, there's a form that can help with pain, like back pain and stuff.
What's your thoughts on, because some people are prescribed just like the oil, THC oil that helps with like, some people take that, but it's prescribed by a doctor.
I think anything prescribed by a doctor is okay because you're under medical supervision. But for me, it was, and I'd even read like kratom's not addictive. So I was like, okay, whew. So I can just stop this whenever I'm ready to. But as an addict, you start taking it, then you want a little bit more, then you want a little bit more. And it got to a point where my body was becoming physically dependent on it. It was the first thing I thought about when I woke up. I started noticing the withdrawal symptoms, and I compared that to my alcoholism. I knew what a withdrawal symptom looked like.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh man, this is trouble.
Well, at least you recognized it.
Yeah.
When we went on our honeymoon, it was great. The first 98.9% of it was great. And then I have a history of what's called a rheumatic fever, and it affects my joints. I'm not going to get into too much detail, but I got sick on our honeymoon on the ship. Sorry. And I had to go and get medication for it and whatnot. So that was, I was out for a little bit with that. And then our final day remember?
Yeah. I got very sick.
She got very sick. And wasn't that from that?
I think it was a mixture of just not like dehydration. And then I did run out of kratom and stuff. And so my body was going through withdrawals, and we made it back to the US barely into Augusta. And I ended up checking into ER of dehydration and stuff. And
Really?
we were like, my mom hadn't gotten to the ER yet. And I went to the doctor and I was like, I may be suffering from kratom withdrawals too. But don't
tell mom.
Don't talk about that in front of my mom.
About that.
And I remember the doctor looking at me and saying, kratom isn't addictive, that you're not going through withdrawals. And I was like, no.
So it tricked our mind at first.
I was like, hey, maybe I am okay. Like maybe I was just.
Was he right?
No. And so we were fine. And then I kept doing the kratom. And then in April.
Did you keep doing the kratom because of what he said?
I was justified. Yeah. And then I got pregnant, and early on I had a miscarriage, and I blamed myself, and I thought it was the kratom that did it. And I told myself, because a huge reason why I got sober in the first place with alcohol was I knew I wanted to be a mom someday. And there was no way, with the condition that I was in at that moment, I could not drink for 9 months. I couldn't go an hour.
Right.
So I knew I never wanted my addiction to be a reason for a miscarriage or something like that to happen again.
That's a lot of weight to carry.
Yeah. And so fast forward to June, I was like, all right, I'm going to come up with a plan to get off this kratom. And so I did all the research, and I ended up doing a 3-day detox at Piedmont Hospital for it. And just trying to control the situation. And I thought that my detox was going to be just like my alcohol detox, where it was going to be easy, and God was just going to lift that desire off of me and everything. And it was 100% different. It was like having the flu for 3 weeks.
Really?
What's
in kratom?
Awful.
It's an opiate for the most part. It was just, I was miserable, and the detox didn't help much for it. And so I was at a low. And so it got to a point where I ended up admitting because Ryan was the only one that knew that
So that was hard for me, because I was like, I don't know what to do.
I didn't admit it to anyone. Yeah.
Was that when I called?
He called my sponsor at the time.
The only person that I was confident, especially with the situation, she was the only one I called, because I didn't know who else. I couldn't go to her parents.
That was a great idea.
I didn't want to go to my parents at the time. So I was like, who do I talk to? So I called their sponsor up, and I was just like, this is the situation, and there wasn't anything that she said to me that I didn't already know.
You just need confirmation.
I think I did. Yeah, it was more of just a confirmation thing.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
In that, how far along were you? Like, how many months did you have at that time when you went
of doing kratom?
No, when you quit drinking. Till started kratom.
Oh, it was like almost a year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah,
it was a while.
Did you finish working all 12 steps in that time?
Mm-mm. And I knew. I mean, now I see it clear as day. But people, because I still attend AA regularly, and they always talk about. Stay with your program. Like, as soon as if you veer one way, or if you veer off track, like your program, and take a back seat with your program, then it's going to lead to a relapse. And don't let the gifts that God and AA have given you keep you from coming back into the rooms and all that stuff. I heard that, and I was like, yeah. Like, I'm not going to drink. Like, but it was a different type of relapse.
Yeah.
And so I I didn't mean to get addicted to it, you know, but I didn't mean to get addicted to alcohol either.
Right. That's nuts.
And so it was,
and I was taking it too. So
Kratom?
Yeah. Yeah. She took the powder form because she could mix it in her coffee. And I took it as a pill form because I didn't like the taste of the powder that it came in. So,
what made you decide to start taking it?
Well, I mean, she kind of had said that, you know,
I think he saw it.
I saw it in her.
I started taking the pill form.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I started it. And he
And
was
then
like,
I think
what is
one
that?
day I was just like, you know, I'll just try it, you know, whatever. So I tried it and it was like a shot of energy.
Can I ask
for
you
me.
a question?
Yeah.
Did you do that because you knew that y'all couldn't drink together? Or
No.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I understand where you're coming from.
Like another
No.
level of connection.
No.
No, it had nothing to do with that. It was completely separate from me. I just didn't think, I didn't see any harm in it.
Yeah.
Because I knew it wasn't like,
It's like an energy drink.
yeah.
I never had it. So, I mean, I don't know.
So it was, it was a good feeling when you took it, you know, but again, it wasn't anything altering, you know, daily life or anything like that. But seeing her go through that was
Tough.
That was hard. I was like, oof.
So that's a lot that you guys went through together in your first year.
Mm-hmm.
So you went through a miscarriage and then you went through a relapse.
Well, when I was doing the detox at Piedmont, I got pregnant again. So I was detoxing on top of being pregnant. So that one was a disaster. So I ended up having a second miscarriage.
We've had 3. It's tough. It was tough on Kristen.
It's tough. Yeah. But
don't give up.
Well, now I'm 3 months pregnant.
Are you?
Yes.
Yep.
We're going to have a boy in May.
He's going to come and he's going to be here.
Yeah.
What's you going to name him?
We don't know
We
yet.
haven't disclosed that information yet.
Don't know yet?
Yeah.
That's good. I'm so proud of you.
Thanks.
Yeah, I know that's tough, but I mean, you know, give it back to God and just let him handle that.
I think God knew my heart's desires. He knew I wanted to be a mom.
Mm-hmm.
And it just took me being honest with myself and with him and my network and with Ryan and saying like, we got you. Like, this is safe and God will provide once the time is right and that you're spiritually, mentally, physically ready. And I don't think I was until I fully gave it to him.
How, what's your son's name?
Aiden.
How did Aiden, have you told Aiden yet?
Oh yeah. He was the first one we told actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Was he excited?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he fully understands.
Yeah.
Quite.
He gets it now.
He gets it.
He gets
but,
it. He's going to be a big brother.
Yeah.
He has a younger sister.
He has from his mom's
He has a half
marriage.
sister.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, he's excited for a brother. I have one of those little heart dobblers that you can listen to the baby's heartbeat at home. And so he's like, can we listen to the baby's heartbeat?
That's sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what's the future look like? What's the next couple of years look like for you guys? What do you got planned?
I mean, kid.
You're still with the magazine.
Yes, I'm still with the magazine, which was another blessing because when I got fired from the job, I was unhireable, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was such a blessing because, I mean, I went in for the interview. She didn't really ask much about my past. She didn't do reference checks or anything. Like, it just all worked out. And I ended up being fully honest with her, and we're able to have that open relationship now too, and respect for each other. But yeah, over the next couple of years, I mean, still with the magazine, have a kid.
Hopefully buy a house.
Hopefully buy a house soon. But I think it's just being good parents and understanding that having that firsthand experience with addiction as a family member, then personally, just teaching Aiden and then the new baby kind as they grow, what those signs look like.
Okay.
Because I think a big problem right now with society or people struggling with addictions is they don't notice it's a problem until it's a problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
So seeing those signs before the consequences come.
Would that be the same advice you would give to, let's say, a young couple that's listening now? Maybe they met on an app and, you know, they just went on a honeymoon and they both got sick. But there's going to be a couple out there that's going to relate to your story. What would you want them to know? This first year is tough, but what have you learned from that first year? Through a relapse, through 2 miscarriages?
That God put Ryan in my life for a reason, and God chose him to be my partner through all of this. And he respects me. He shows up for me every day. He loves me unconditionally. So that you can't forget that. And you have to keep that as your marriage. The most important thing in your marriage is that open communication and reason for why God even brought him into my life.
That's good. Did you guys read through the book at all yet? A little bit?
Some. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I'd ask you just to dig in and give me some feedback. How about you as a dad, as a husband, as a supportive spouse? What would you tell that other dad, husband, supportive spouse out there?
Listen. Be a listener.
Yeah.
Because I am no professional in this category. I know nothing about it. But also gotta have faith.
Yeah.
Because it's funny because like I've never, through this whole thing, I've never worried about her relapsing with alcohol.
Yeah.
It's something that doesn't even faze me.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Just being
The danger of other things out there.
The things that she's told me, she doesn't want to go back to that.
Right.
And I have full faith in the fact that that's not even, that's not even in the rearview mirror anymore.
Good.
So
that's good. Can I ask you guys a couple questions?
Of course. These are the rapid fire questions.
Rapid fire coming up. Do you need a minute?
No.
All right. I've got 6 questions, and I'm going to ask. It doesn't matter who answers it. It's not like a boy-girl question, but there's 6 of them. So I'll give you 3, and I'll give you 3.
Okay. Give him the hard ones.
Oh, jeez.
You ready?
Yep.
Well, we'll start with Ryan first. Ryan, a person you would trade places with for one day.
One person.
This is rapid fire. Answer as quickly as you can. One day. Dead or alive.
One day.
First thing, you got to whatever comes to your head. You can say Willy Wonka right now and it'd be okay.
LeBron James.
LeBron James. LeBron James.
Why not?
LeBron James. Amy Leigh, guilty pleasure.
Ooh, like cake, anything chocolate peanut butter together. That is my go-to.
Best compliment you've ever gotten. Ryan.
My eyes.
Worst piece of advice you've ever gotten.
Ooh, go get a Walmart credit card.
Okay.
Get a credit card. Absolutely.
Something you wish you were better at.
Where do I start? She's going to disagree, but I'll say, because there's always room for improvement, but being a husband and a dad.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we're not perfect at all.
Yeah.
But she would disagree with you?
Probably. I hope so. I hope so.
Well, we'll always make you smile, Amy Leigh.
My dog.
Facts.
And Ryan.
Facts. That dog, Sadie.
What
I'm
kind of
telling
dog
you,
is it?
She's like
mutt.
No,
Mutt.
yeah, but she's like boxer husky mix.
When I
I
tell
love
you,
boxers.
Me too.
what can I compare? I mean, it's like a gnat that just will never leave you alone. That dog, wherever she goes, that is her shadow.
Really?
She
Oh,
saw
yes.
me through the ups and downs.
Oh, yes.
I think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
You love that dog.
I do.
She does.
Hey guys, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on the Recovery Valve podcast. I know this can be intimidating to just put your junk out there, but just know that for all the people that do listen to this podcast, you're going to speak to somebody, and you did great because you took something that's heavy and you didn't let it be heavy. You kind of gave it life and you talked about it. And so I really appreciate that. So this episode will come out soon, but thank you for just coming and being transparent.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
You're
Absolutely.
welcome.
Yes.
Proud of you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
buddy.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I know.
Excited. Very excited.
All right. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for tuning in today's episode of Recovery Valve Podcast. I really hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you would like to connect with us, you can connect with us through email at recoveryvalve@gmail.com, our website, recoveryvalve.com, or you can find us on our different social media platforms, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. But we would love for you to go to YouTube and subscribe to our channel. If you would like to pre-order a copy of my book, Marriage After Addiction, Take Back Your Life Together, you can do that through the store at exomarriage.com, or you'll see a link on any of our social media platforms. I look forward to seeing you again very soon. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Recovery Valve Podcast is brought to you by Goldneck, Newsom Electric, S&S Supplies, Carpet Cleaning Pros of Augusta, Rhett Walker, Atlas Health and Wellness, Norval Fixture and Equipment, Augusta Lawn and Turf, Augusta Dream Center, Bagwell Insurance, Sally Kohler Photography, Burroughs Elijah, Attorney at Law, Communigraphics, Kendra Neal Studio, Kendrick Paint and Body, Coleman Construction, Augusta Magazine, Corbin Jones State Farm, Game Changers, Tree Guys with Ties, Penn Roofing, Aggressors Adventure, Posey Funeral Directors, Craig International. And I want to say thanks to everyone else who's contributed to the Recovery Valve Podcast. We couldn't do this without you.